Welcome to another Chef Knives to Go Quick Look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we have is the Kamo VG-10 Suminagashi Petty 150mm knife with a hybrid handle, so nice long title there to spill over to the second page. So the way these are made is they've got a core steel that's cutting edge steel in the center, a VG-10 full stainless steel. Heat treat is around 60 Rockwell for that. And then what they do is do a multi-layered stainless cladding on either side of that core steel. And then that cladding, when it's ground down, does show the layers. So Suminagashi, I believe, is translated paper, layers of paper. And so you could also say Damascus if you wanted to. It's kind of different name that's sometimes interchanged, at least talking about some of the knives here. So you can definitely see the layers right there on it. The weight and dimensions on this can vary a bit from knife to knife, especially depending on the handle, because it's a big chunk of the weight. But this particular one is 94 grams or 3.3 ounces. It's 151 millimeters on the edge, or about 5.9 inches. The overall length is about 286 millimeters. And then the blade's not really especially thick. It's I measured in the back here about 1.9 millimeters. These might be very slightly, but about 1.75 in the middle. And then doesn't have a lot of taper. You'll see the grind is very easy to tell on these because it starts where the layers start showing through. And so as it's ground down towards the tip, you'll see the thickness of the spine change. And it's not like super skinny at the tip, but it's skinny enough to make performance good. Here is the choil shot, the back of the blade. So fairly thin towards the edge. It's not a very tall grind, as you can see. The blade height is about 33.6. So this would be kind of categorized on the Chef's Knives to Go forums. They kind of came up with categorizing these petty knives into like either a utility style knife or maybe a mini Guto style. And you can kind of see the shape there. It looks like a mini Guto. So when you start getting a little bit taller on the blade heights, you start getting into that shape where it behaves a little more like that. So this will definitely do some nice board work for you, especially the cool thing is you've got this thin neck here. And you've got a little height, so, there's plenty of room to actually, unless you got really big fingers, to give you some room for traditional board work on this, which is part of the appeal of this integral bolster and this hybrid handle. So what you're seeing on this handle is it's made out of oak laminate, which is pretty cool looking. It's got a nice warm color to it. It's oval, and it thins out pretty much towards the bolster, but it goes right into the bolster. There's a tang that's inside there, and so that's why they call it a hybrid handle. The bolster's nicely made and flows right into the blade, and the balance point is going to be a little bit further back here because of the weight of the wood and small blade, but there's your balance point, just right about where that bolster starts thinning down into the blade. Out of the box edge, I would give it maybe 5 out of 10. It's not the world's nicest edge bevel, so this could probably use a good cleanup and sharpening. The edge bevel definitely could use some work, but it's reasonably sharp out of the box, but you can get it much nicer. The one thing I found about it is they took the spine on the corners is pretty sharp. They didn't really relieve that at all right here. They actually took a little bit off on the corners and stuff on the choil into the neck. I think you could probably clean it up a little bit more, especially if you're going to do the spine, might as well. But they cleaned that up a little bit, but the spine's pretty sharp, so you may choose to clean that up a little bit. Again, strips of sandpaper or whatever grits you want, if like a progression of grits or some emery cloth or some kind of flexible sandpapers. They got some new ones out now that are a little more flexible. You can do a shoe shine effect on that, back and forth, and knock that out pretty quick. So let's take a look at the cutting board profile, and it looks like a mini Guto, and it kind of behaves like that. It's got a nice profile. You've got a little bit of flat back here, about the back third of the blade. It flows into a stop at the heel, just like a Guto might. And there's your profile. So kind of a medium tip. This digs in pretty quick, although you could sharpen it slightly different, but the tip kind of comes down. Not a lot of belly there, so I'm getting in there for it wants to dig in. But again, when you sharpen it, you can upsweep the last couple of millimeters and maybe give yourself a little bit more leeway on a rocking job. But I wouldn't say this is a big rocker. It definitely has a flat spot in the back. Chopping, push-pull cuts. It'll do nice tip draws. So, and as you can see, you get a, it's hard to show you with the angle I'm at here, but you get a pretty nice cutting board gap here, and you got the thin neck, so you got plenty of room for your fingers. So it's not like you have to pull it off the edge of the counter or the board like you would some petty knives. So it's a nice feature of that. We'll go that way since we got kanji there. So this is a neat little package. So this is the Kamo VG-10 Suminagashi petty 150mm hybrid handle.